In order to do the Java Reader, you have to do a few things. So I wanted to walk through the setup with you and then leave a little bit for you to do on your own. So for the file reader, you first have to import your java.io, and you have to do java.io and then dot with the star or the asterisk, and that's going to get all of the libraries, all of the IO libraries. And I happened to call mine a weird name just because I was doing a test. We were having some trouble with some people's files. So I just have a weird name. You can name it something different. And I like to start with my main file first, since that's usually where it starts first. So I like to put that first. I know a lot of our test files have it starting later, but I think that's a little confusing. And our documentation said to do the throws for the IO exception and the file not found exception. Some people were having trouble with these, and I think it's because if you try and copy and paste, sometimes characters don't copy well, and it looks fine, but it doesn't work, and there's errors. I swear I looked at someone's file for it was a long time. I feel like it was hours. And I kept going back to it because I'm like, why doesn't this work? And I tried a whole bunch of different things. And it was actually this line of code down here. And when I just actually typed the code myself, then the code ran. So my suggestion is not to copy paste, but to actually type it. And also that's going to help you with your motor memory as well. So you get used to typing the right things. So the first thing we do is we're going to send the file scores down to the process file method. Right? So we have two different methods. So our main method, all it's doing is it calls the process file method, and inside it puts the name of the file. And what we've done is we've saved a text file, and we've saved it inside of our NetBeans. And so what I want to show you is I'm going to bring up my documents on this computer. So if we go to my NetBeans projects, and this one was called File Reader Test. So if I open that up, you'll see that I actually have a couple, because I was trying something else. I was trying a different file, but I've added the text file right here. And so I'm working on a PC for this recording, but you can do it with any file. You just need to save it as a text file. When you save it to, you find where your NetBeans are saved on your computer, and then you save it right to that project node. So it doesn't go inside anything. So remember, when you're grabbing your stuff and you send it to me, when you send me your Java files, it's inside the source src file, but this one's just going to go right out into the middle of it. So you just save your things there. And so it's going to grab this file. So if we open up my scores file, so I have these numbers. It starts at number 10 and it goes to number 97. And when I run your code, I'm going to use my own file so I know what the output should be, because I'm going to be testing that your calculations work. So let's go back to the code now. So the first thing we have to do is, so once we have the main, we call that, then we're going to do the process file method, and we're going to accept as a parameter a string, and we're calling it file name. And that's what we're passing down. We're passing down something that's going to be in the file name variable. And we're also throwing a couple of exceptions here. So this line of code, again, type it. It's written in the directions, and so you have the buffered reader, and so this is what you need to do in order to start the buffered reader and get it working. Make sure you have the news. That's fairly important. Then we're going to declare our variables. We want to make sure I put some comments in here that I'm declaring the variables outside of the loop. And I wanted to remind everyone that the default variable for strings is null. So I don't have to set it equal to anything. It's just automatically null. So I have, these are the, and I decided to do integers because I did whole numbers, so I'm not giving any partial, I'm not giving any decimals for my scores. But if you wanted to do, you could do doubles. You would just have to change your line of code a little bit. So I have a few things. So first of all is the number. So that's what I'm calling, what I'm taking for the input. The total is, I am calculating a total as I go because I'm adding up all the numbers, and then I do something, I have an integer called count, and this is my counter because I might have 20, because the directions say at least 20 variable or 20 values in the file. Well, what if you have 21? What if you have 25? What if you have more people? What if some leave and there's less? So I like to have a counter instead of making it a hard-coded value, so I want you guys to do this as well. And then we're going to have the while loop. And the while loop, again, was right in the directions. And so what this while loop is saying is while line So line is going to be equal to the input reader. So it's going to read the line of code, right? So it's going to call the input reader. It's going to take one line. And while it's not equal to null, so we know null is blank. So as long as there's something in that line, this code's going to run. And then notice we have the nice indentation here because we want to have our indentation. So we know that all of this code is within the while loop. So the first thing we do is it says the reader assumes string, so we're going to cast it as an integer. So this is the line that I do integer dot parse int for the line. And if you're doing a double, then you're going to do the double parse double. And so I'm just calling this one number. Again, I'm using the variables that I created up here. You want to create them outside of the loop. And then total is it's plus equal number. So basically, you're taking whatever's in the total field already. So first it's 0, and I'm going to add to it what's in the number field and then set it equal to the total again. And then I put in this line, I have a couple of things in here that I will comment out after a while, but for right now, I put it in to make sure it reads everything. So do you remember when we looked at my files and we wanted to make sure, let's just double check, I think it started at 10, yep, and it ended at 97. So I want to make sure when I run this code that I'm reading all of those lines. So before I make it bigger, that's what I do. I check smaller amounts. So I'm going to print out the number. So that's just what they're pulling, what they're parsing from the file. Then I'm changing my count. So this is my counter. So this is just going to increment. It's going to count how many times it goes through the code. So it's count plus plus. And so this is just like in the for loops, how we put the plus plus. So that just means, count every time it goes through, it's going to increment by 1. So plus plus just means plus 1. And then I'm going to print out, so this was just a print, not a print line. So it's going to put the number and it's going to say is online, and then it's going to put the counter. So I'm going to have something that prints out. And then it's really important after the while loop, when it falls down, that I close the input reader. So I close it up. So let me run this code. And so you can see, I'm going to make sure I'm going to scroll back up. So it starts at 10 is on line 1. Yay, that's what I wanted. And 97 is my last one, and it's on line 20. And because I followed the directions, I needed at least 20, so I have 20 numbers. Now, what I want to get from this, which I don't have in my code, which you guys are going to figure out how to do, is I want it to say the average. I want it to average the total of all the scores. And I want you to have a really nice print statement for me. Since I walked you through all of this code, I want you to think about what you're going to say to me. So you can, put some words in there. You can concatenate some things together to make a really nice output for me. And when you're done with that, then you're going to save the file and submit it. And if you guys have questions, start posting them on the discussion board so that others can answer them as well. All right? Thank you.